Because they put us in the old barracks, Second World War II barracks. And I mean, it was in the middle of the winter almost. It was cold. Well, there was about 50 or 60 of us in the barracks. And that's when, you had that. You had to do everything in the barracks. When they come in the morning, the first morning what they do is they get garbage cans, baseball bats. And they come in and stand in the middle of the room, and then they start waving that thing around, wake everybody up, and like, get out of that bucket. You got so much time to shave, and you know what they would say. But I want to say some of the bad things they would say. So you get out, and you get off, then you rush around, get dressed, you got to shave, you got to walk, you got 10, 15, 20 minutes, you got to be out there in line on the pack, so they can call everybody's name to keep you there. So you get done, then they march you off the chow. Down the chow. If you ever eaten a mess hall, it's a lot bigger than this, and there's about 5,000 people in there. And you got to eat fast, because then you got to go to classes. So you spend a month there, but I didn't have to spend the 3 months, but being that I was in the reserve in prior service. I learned a lot from there, but you have to go, and then you sit in class all day long, you know what to do. Yeah, I hear you. Because you woke up so early. And what you're so tired a lot about is you have to stay and watch at night. Guess what I was watching?
What?
A dumpster. Well, it's people, you never know where some crazy people come in there. They throw matches in it and set it on fire. So you had to stand guard over it all for 4 hours in Chicago in December.
Wow.
It's cold out there. I'm going to tell you. They give you a pea coat, and you're no long underwear or nothing. You just stand out there, I'm cold, jump up and down. Finally, you go back to your bunk and go to sleep. But anyway, it's interesting to go through boot camp because they have different, the classes you go to. You have to learn about ships. First thing you got to learn is port and starboard, forward and aft. These people don't know what port and starboard means, what forward and aft is. That's because when they say everybody's to the port side, you better go run to the starboard side because everybody's going to be over there. But anyway, and the different classes, I wouldn't go through that because I don't even remember what they told me. So it's been, 50, 60 years ago? Finally, after about a month, they come in and say, you go in, it's like being in school, but you're not learning a lot like you do in school. It's multiple questions. They ain't going to, most people don't write too well. They don't want to read nothing. You just put an X where you read the spot. Then if you pass, you move on. And then, everybody in the class I was in, they passed. So then they come in and say, we're going to have you. Then they come in. They don't have no grades or nothing for prior service. You get your 1 month grade. Because we had guys from the Army, some from Marines, they just re-enlisted, but they didn't want to stay in the Marines or the Army, so they joined the Navy. So it's been a whole gang, a different mixture of people there. Then you go out in the battle, and they have everybody lines up, and they have a big speech, blah, blah, blah. Then you go back in, and on the wall, they got this thing on the wall. You got to find your name and where you're going to go. Well, I ended up going down to Cecil Field in Florida, and I was way up in Chicago. I said, how do I get down there? Well, they give you about $100. But back then, that was a lot of money.
Yeah. Right.
And then you go buy what kind of ticket you want. Now, you can buy an airplane and flew down there, but that would have been the whole $100. So that's all you had. So what I done, I said, I got a bus. There was a big mistake. It took 4 days on the bus to go from Chicago because that thing went all over the world. And then finally, we got all the way down to Cecil Field, Florida. Then I got there. I never knew anything about what was going on in the South then. I was raised in the North. They had that segregation and stuff. So I go off the bus and I go up. Well, there's 2 stations there. I said, well, which one do I go in? The guy said, you go in that one over there. This one is for the black, and this one's for the white. So that's where I sat in there, and I said, now how do I get to Cecil Field? So I went in and asked the guy, you got a bus going to Cecil? Yes, we have a bus that goes to Cecil Field. So I got on a bus, and that's how I got into my squadron. It was a VFW. Well, it wasn't a VFW, it was a fighter squadron. But it was the big Crusaders. Mm-hmm. And then your common job, and you figure, well, now I'm going to be, well, guess what you do when you get there? You're going to work in the chow hall for 3 months. What? I never served any food. You get in line and serve food. There are 2,000, 5,000 people coming in there every day. Blue, blue, blue. You do that morning, then they say, okay, go home. You go back to your barracks for about 25 minutes. If they're then back in again because now they're going to serve lunch. Boo, boo. They do that 3 times a day. Well, you're glad you do your 3 months when you get out of there. You've had it.
Wow.
Then I found out that we were I was in a fighter squadron, but a fighter squadron does not stay on land, only when they're in port.
Uh-huh.
But then you got to go on the ship. And when you go on the ship, then you get, there's a life experience for anybody. Well, I'll explain, but you know, when you go onto a ship, you just can't walk on.
Right.
You got to walk up to the gangplank, you walk up, and the officer's standing up there. You got to salute the ensign halfway up, walk all the way up to the top, then you salute the officer and request permission to go aboard. And you say, permission granted. Then you go aboard. Then you got to follow somebody who's going anywhere you're going.
Now, what ship was that?
That was a Roosevelt.
The
The
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt, it's retired now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We more or less worked the Atlantic. We sailed all around the Atlantic down. And then we got stationed in, I got stationed over in Spain for 6 months because one of the pilots got in the plane, he was flying, and they were having gunnery practice. You know how they do gunnery practice on a plane? They have a plane in the front dragging a big flag, and the fighter comes in from the side, comes in and fires 20 millimeter shells. You don't even want to be in the location of them things now. And it knocks holes in the flag and in your color. Then they'll tell you how many times you hit it, so they know how close they're coming to hit their target. Well, anyway, they took the planes out, and they were doing that, and all of a sudden, one of the planes disappeared. And what happened? He shot himself down. Could you imagine being inside a fighter plane shooting 20 millimeter shells, and there was 3 machine guns in that front tower, it blew the whole front end of that plane. We never found him. All we found was his helmet with a piece of the cockpit stuck in his helmet.
Ooh.
It went right straight through it. It must have hit him in the head, blew off his head or something. I don't know.
That and decompression, yeah.
That'd make. So we said no, we can't take these planes into the Mediterranean. They had to be stationed. We got stationed in Rhodes, Spain. And I'll tell you, I didn't mind that. Except for I had to do compartment cleaning for 30 months. So you get up in the morning, everybody gets, you got to shave, shower, do blah, 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 you know, get out, stand in attention, call your drill, then you go back, then I got to go back there and clean up that place. You got 80 people living in that barracks, you know.
Wow.
You got to clean for all. There's only 3 of us usually, 3 in each barracks. We clean that, we do that for 3 months. Finally, you get out after 6 months, then you go down into the squadron. Then they train you for something like, they want to make me a plane captain. Well, that was a disaster. Because I never knew this. I'm dyslexic. And dyslexic people can't stand noise. But you ever get on a back with some 14 jets all running at one time and everybody roaring up there, what do I do? What do I do? I was on the flight deck. The guy come running over and grabs me and said, "Get off my flight deck." He took me down and they went, "You can't ever go back." So I wasn't even allowed back on the flight deck no more.
Oh, geez.
So he put me in the ready room. Now there was a great job. Our ready room is where the officers hang out. So what did I do? I kept the paperwork for the officers. They can go. No officer, he writes like a Chinaman. And I could interpret it. So I interpret now and say, "Oh, well, let's see, what's that? Your radio ain't working or what?" All night long I fill the paper. Then I go down to people in the lower deck, that's the hangar deck. And they had their stations.
Yeah.
And then you take them, you give them all this paperwork, and now the guy gets this stuff fixed by morning, or they're going to use the planes, you know. It was interesting. There was, all of it was happy. We had 2 planes. One guy, this is unbelievable. He comes flying in, and you're out to sea, you're going to land on the the deck and they go up like up and down. And the guy, you ever see the guy with the flags?
Yeah,
He's
like
the one that he
this.
goes like that. Whichever way he's waving, that's what you do. You either land or go on. Don't take off. You know, well, they read, come on, you can land. But just right in that instant, the ship came up like this.
Oh no.
And the plane came down like this.
Oh,
and
no.
blew the wheels and everything were off that
Oh,
sucker.
jeez.
And the thing caught fire. It was shooting fire out all sides. This guy's inside the plane. You know what he did?
What,
He
the
pulled
bail
the cord. He pulled this is he went off the end of the plane. He pulled the cord and he went up like he went about 30, 40 feet in the air, right? And then I said, and he's going at 90 miles an hour. This thing. But it's all, where these things are, it's electronics in them. You know,
Yeah.
and it knew what the height, it figured this guy's only 90 feet in the air, so he shot the drag chute out, and that caught him, and then he was coming down like this. I'm telling you, you ever hit the water doing 90 miles an hour? You don't want to hit the water doing 90 miles an hour.
No.
Bang.
He was going
No.
down like this, and I said, oh my God, he's going to hit the water. And all of a sudden, the main chute shot out, boom, pulled him right back up in the air, and he survived. And he's the only one that ever did it, and I was standing there watching it, right? So years later, up in Lakehurst, they had a lot of the planes there, and they were demonstrating, you know, and the guy was over here. I said, what was all those pictures there? He said, oh, that's that plane that survived on. And I said, yeah. And he said, well, this was in the squadron so-and-so. And I said, no, it wasn't. He said, what do you mean it wasn't? I said, I was standing there. I know what happened. That was on the Roosevelt when that happened.
Yeah.
You know? They didn't want to believe me anyway. I said, it was. But anyway, that's typically what it's all about. The Navy, I mean, any service, there's a lot of
It's
downtime.
rough, yeah.
It gets boring. And then there's a lot of uptime where you've got to do all this extra, especially in the old days when they had the wooden decks and stuff. That was terrible. They would take them blocks and scrub the deck. You had to do that about once a week. Luckily, we didn't do that because they covered our whole deck was made of steel. But it was interesting. I went to Spain. I spent 6 months there and met him. I even started to speak the language a little bit. Now I can't remember it. Yeah, it was fun. Yeah. And there's probably a lot more, but you know, it's been 60 years. I don't remember everything. But then they asked me to re-enlist, and I looked at them kind of sideways, and I said, "Really?" I said, "What are we going to do? The same thing I've been doing the last 3 years?" No. I said, "Bye-bye."
So long, huh?
I don't know why I got out. I come back home, there was nobody left I knew. I didn't even have a job. I was sleeping in my car. Finally, I got a place where I could sleep. Anyway, that's good. Is that enough?
Yeah, you're good, Bob.
Okay, there you go.